tragically hip.
Doesn't seem brilliant or twisted to me.
Just how hip are you?
I guess, but as hip as the next guy, I guess we just play a bit of music and get to call ourselves that above everyone else, perhaps. I don't know.
You're supposed to say...
Tragically.
Yeah? Would you say you're tragically hip?
Yeah. Sure.
We all went to the same high school. Been playing in bands for 20 years in different combinations, 10 years with this band. And I think for most bands, that's, you know, it just isn't that way, and that's the way that it should be, or that's the way they dream it should be.
When you're 16, you just want to get into a band and play, and you don't even know why.
It was meant to happen, you know. It was like my parents got off a boat from England and went to Kingston, Ontario, and spent their very first New Year's Eve with Robbie's parents. You know, these people they hadn't met invited them to what they say was the greatest New Year's Eve party they ever went to.
My parents have lived across the street from Robbie's parents for 30 years. So Robbie and I have known each other since I was 0 and he was 1.
And on Christmas Eve, we'd all get together and play Twister, a really big Twister game. That was it. That's what. Yeah, and then we dance, and it's kind of like Up with People.
Get screwed around, the other guy's got.
We seem to all switch roles quite regularly and consistently. We know each other so well, we can all play each other's roles to, you know, to perfection.
We're best friends, you know. When we're not on the road, we hang out together. You know, it's great. We all plan on doing it for a long time together. And I think that that's one way that you rise above. You just stick it out. You keep doing what you love doing, and if it's any good, then people are going to take notice, and I think people are taking notice now.
My memory is money, what's this river that I'm in? New Orleans is sinking, man, and I don't wanna swim.
Friendship takes effort, obviously. And it's something that we cherish. It's something we're pretty lucky for. And it just, yeah, it makes writing, it makes recording a lot more fun.
How did you all get together for this record?
We kind of looped in.
How?
Gave a tape to a friend who gave it to a brother-in-law who passed it on to someone else who took an interest in the band.
And we got a call from these people we didn't know one day, who had heard our tape, and we had no idea, but it's turned out well.
Waving money around?
Lots of it, yeah.
Sure. Just sign here in blood.
Waited on your doorstep till the break of day. Now the wind I broke, I could no longer wait for.
The influences obviously are from 50s and 60s roots rock and roll.
I think in early 60s in the old English R&B scene, you know, the Stones, Animals, Yardbirds, it was a real club scene. It was designed for live bands. It was a lot different in the 70s. I mean, it wasn't a club scene, so, you know, we were looking to get out of the basement into the bars. And, I mean, that was a scene that had taken place 20 years earlier, but we had natural empathy with it, I think.
Some people think we sound a little Southern, but we're Canadians through and through.
Do you think that you represent the Kingston sound, that you're reflective of the indigenous?
Kingston is a missing part of the Mississippi Delta.
Here's a song for a girl from Kingston, who I used to know, I know no longer. Crack my spine like a whip. Cracking my spine, oh baby, like a whip. Bringing you Saturday, then just like I could have. Getting part of you, I'm going home. Coming with another loan. I'm a bit broken.
Everywhere we go, we say we're from Kingston, and we praise its Kingston-ness.
Things don't get you down, you're a top 10 kingpin in the borders of your hometown.
Everyone in Kingston is just proud, and that's cool with us. A lot of our friends have kind of, now we're starting to do a little better, and so when they come and see us, it's kind of a different experience for them. So they feel like they're part of it.
My memory is money, what's this river that I'm in? New Orleans is sinking, man, and I don't wanna swim. Eat this chicken slow, full of popping, red up on Meridian, at the 100th Meridian, at the 100th Meridian, where the Great Plains begin. An afternoon, 4,000 men died in the water here. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century. You are ahead by a century.
Even if you just sort of get a sense of the mood or the landscape or a character in it, or even if it just sort of takes you off somewhere else so that you're not even listening to the lyrics by the end of the song, then it's succeeded. It's just functioned as a sound.
Looking for the ultimate dance mix? Dance Hit Super Mix is back, better than ever. Back with over 70 minutes of the year's hottest jam. Starring Robin S., Michelle Sweeney, Angelina, and the Top Dance Band. A massive dance collection. Dance Hit Super Mix Volume 2 from Popular Records. It's in stores now.
This band, we're fortunate in that we have an abundance of writers. I've heard some bands say it doesn't work because, maybe one guy's really smart and one guy's really stupid or something like that. And, this guy's writing songs that this guy thinks are inane and stupid. Therefore, they can't, the songs, they have some stupid songs. And anyway, we tend to get some continuity because we all seem to write for the band. We're all stupid.
For us, it's great. The songwriting has really evolved into a collaborative, cooperative effort.
We decided that also that a song that we write is not really a song that we write until every guy's put his stamp on it. It's not really a song until Johnny plays the drums, or Robbie plays his part, or whatever. So everyone seems to bring stuff, or something comes out of a jam, but we feel that it's too ridiculous to try and split hairs all the time because, we just won't last. We'll break up or something if we get too egotistical about it. And, I can't be driving in Rolls, and this poor boy has 10 speed, so it's a band credit.
I think the one thing that our friendship has allowed us to do is strip away the meaningless ego concerns that can afflict a band or a group of adults trying to, get something done. Ultimately, the song comes first, and we're all able to, place the song above all.
The rest of the world, it comes a gift shot.
When we're going over a song and somebody will say to Gord, is that line from, when we were at the Grand Canyon or something, 2 months later, and then you'll get into talking about a story, and then, but no one really sort of comes up and says, what's this about? And you can sort of figure out, because we're on the road together and we go through a lot of the same things, reading the same papers, same TV, and just sort of taking it all in. But it's incredible to have someone that will write lyrics with the 5 of us, the 4 other people in the band in mind. It's a pretty amazing position to be in.
Yeah.
I'm still reading Curious George books, and it blows my mind.
I also think, you know, that if you can get comfortable enough to write a song as though you were talking to a friend, then that friend would sort of know exactly what you're saying all the time. Like you and your best friend, you don't even have to make sense. You know, you have your own friend speak. And that's kind of the way I approach it. The guys in the band kind of never seem to question it, you know. They seem to understand it perfectly.
Sometimes it's linked, like, thematically, as loosely as a photo album, you know? I mean, you can sort of recognize certain things. You turn the pages, and together it all tells some kind of story.
Gord Sinclair wrote it, and I don't know. I think he wrote it with Kingston in mind, but more so about a person in Kingston, you know, a big shot.
But you gotta remember, the smarter it gets, the further it's gonna go when you're flowing high.
The song's fairly self-explanatory if you're semi-schizophrenic. The saying itself is something my mother used to say, sort of, you know, about moving too fast for your own good or learning to run before you crawl kind of thing. And that was where the saying came from, as far as I know. And the song is, I guess, sort of falls in line with that sentiment.
Smile as trees and Sioux and Marie, victorious mother tongue, passing laws just because, and singing songs of the English unsung. How could you do?
Born in the Water is about French and native rights. I was surprised, being Kingston lads, that you had such a sensitivity to indigenous peoples or French people because of that good old Whig Standard town.
Because there are no French or black or any other kind of people in Kingston. Yeah.
It's as waspy as the eye can see, as long as the eye can see.
Well, we get around, you know, we've done our fair share of traveling in the last few years. We've seen a few things. And even if you don't, you can read a paper. French and English people in Canada have had problems for, you know, 300 years. And it'll never change, you know.
It'll never change?
Well, I don't know. I think they'll always find something to get pissed off at each other about. But I'm an optimist.
Are you a rebel, too?
Yeah, without a clue.
This is a Hugh McClellan song. There are 2 solitudes. You heard my new referendum question, didn't you? Okay, if you're in, don't say anything at all. If you're in, you don't say anything at all. Here's the question. Are you with us or what? This song is called Courage. It couldn't come at a worse time.
There's no simple explanation
For anything important any of us do, and that the human
tragedy consistent the necessity of living with the consequence and the pressure and the pressure.
It's for Hugh McLennan only because the last verse is essentially from The Watch That Ends the Night, you know, is, you know, entirely. I mean, I just took it and screwed around with it, but essentially it's, you know, that sort of idea, which, and also if someone says it's preachy, I say, I didn't write it. Recently, I mean, you know, or in the last year or two, I've sort of just found a need to you know, to hear Canadian voices, and that's where that, you know, Hugh McLennan comes from, and Michael Ondaatje and people like that. But I'm just sort of, I guess, you know, with the referendum and all these things, and sort of the country sort of politically fracturing, and, you know, I don't understand, you know, a more global economy. I don't understand how that stuff works. So anyway, I'm all over the place, but I needed to read Canadian voices, and Hugh McLennan actually was sort of, during that time, I mean, it's not like he helped me through it or anything, but it was, I thought, you know, I thought everyone should read this, because because that seemed to be what people were grappling with even more so than which way they were going to vote. It was just sort of what's happening. A song like 50 Mission Cap, I mean, you write that song because you can. I mean, it's all right there. You know, it's a story, and it's whether you're into hockey or not. I mean, the idea of someone disappearing for 12 years and not being able to find any trace of his or her body, well, I mean, it's getting a little macabre, but, you know, it's still, it's an interesting story, and it's a tragedy, but it's all there, but it makes you pause, and then you wonder, why am I pausing? And then you pause again, and then you write it down, and then you really, until you record it, you're grappling with, you know, why am I doing this? And it's almost not even so much worried about, I mean, there are people that worry about, you know, Americans not understanding it, and then, you know, why should you care? But then ultimately, it's sort of, you're just not used to relating to Canadian stories.
Disappeared that summer. He was on a fishing trip. The last goal he ever scored, won the Leafs the cup.
Once I wrote it and committed it to the disc, it was amazing. I've been talking to people ever since. You know, they've invited me to go on TSN and talk about it.
I found a place, it's dark and it's rotted. It's a cool, sweet kind of place where the coppers won't spot it.
Locked in the trunk of a car, I tried to sort of, you know, use an analogy, and it happens to be a particularly grisly one of dumping a body, you know, and which would also obviously be, if you committed the act of murder, it would have to be something you'd become pretty preoccupied with and probably never forget.
So what's it an analogy for?
Well, you know, if you're in a love relationship and it's the absolute best thing that ever happened to you, and you know it's the absolute best thing that ever happened to you, and you manage to f it up as people can, you know, you know, you're going to feel a certain amount of regret, but ultimately, yeah, I need the lyrics in front of me, you know, just like you know, but it was sort of like that, you know, and just, God, it sounds so maudlin, but, you know, it's just, you know, and felt really horrible, and felt like I was being suffocated, felt, you know, that, you know, I wasn't necessarily liberated from this relationship. You know, I was drugged. It still doesn't work, though. I'm sorry, but locked in the trunk of a car.
The inevitability of death, my babies! Live long and perspire!
I think it's, you know, one of the more humorous titles we've ever had, and that ultimately was just probably picked because we, you know, could only imagine, you know, morning drive time DJs, you know, grappling with the title of this song, while at the same time trying to, you know, comfort their morning listeners. Now, coming up from the Tragically, the inevitability of death. Kurt Cobain line was meant to sort of place a sort of well-known character in kind of very bleak landscape, and it sort of alludes to I think the line from Pennyroyal Tea in which he talks about a Leonard Cohen afterworld where he can sigh eternally. Well, in fact, you know, you can't actually predict what your afterworld will be, if in fact there is one. So I just thought, well, perhaps as an ugly twist of fate, or maybe a humorous twist of fate, Kurt Cobain would be, you know, reincarnated as a sled dog. Initially, the line kind of, it was a barb, you know, when I was sort of thinking about it, I thought, I can't really do that because everyone's ears will sort of prick up and go to that line and never leave it and never listen to the rest of the song. The rest of the song will be spent debating or wondering why Kurt Cobain and then what does this mean? And it's maybe an exhausted subject, but maybe it's not even close to exhausted. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think, you know, you need an anvil to fall on your head to realize what a, you know, one-way ticket heroin is.
The blues are still required.
The reintroduction of the blues. You know, it's springtime in Vienna. The blues, instructions from the manual could not have been much more plain. The blues are still required. I mean, that's sort of, they're always required, you know, and the blues are not really so much about heartache as they are about physical, molecular existence. Sing it like you feel it, and feel it like you feel it.
Hairbird plucks a hair from a sleeping dog to build her nest. She says, I've looked around and I like your hair the best.
I read somewhere about a book, you know, and it sort of probably applies to critical analysis or analysis of some sort, which is that a book should be read as deliberately and reservedly as it was written. So if you apply the same thing to a record or a CD or something, then if you're doing that, listening to it deliberately and reservedly, then that's the best we could possibly hope for, because we certainly were that way making it, you know. The only problem is, having said all that, there's no, you know, given that we now have a new mode of communication, that doesn't mean we're going to have anything to talk about.
Here's a song for La Fille de Roi, La Fille de Roi, daughters of the king. Women who came over here and married the settlers. Women brought over in ships to populate the country.
You're gonna miss me. Wait and you'll see.
You get so tired of people analyzing your lyrics, and I didn't want to go, I want to analyze your lyrics, because first of all, they're so obtuse. I think the metaphor is so personal that I haven't got a clue what it means to you. I only know what it means to me.
Yeah, well, I like to leave it at that usually with anybody, be it someone with a microphone or someone with a beer in their hand, you know. I don't know. I can't come up with real pat answers about them just because it ruins it for me, even.
Does it piss you off maybe to get too analytical about it when maybe a media person or a fan asks you about a certain song or the idea behind it?
No, I'll tell you what pisses me off. Last night, my pants were around my ankles as I sat on the toilet
I can't believe it.
in this bar. And I go to pull them on, and my pants have been sitting in the urine of last night. That pisses me off.
That would piss me off, too.
But other than that, not much pisses me off.
This girl in Trenton thought that all our songs were about punishment. And, you know, I thought about it for a while, and they certainly, I don't think, you know, Gord and I or any of us sat around and thought, let's write some songs about punishment and make an album about it. It just sort of, that was her conception. And I kind of looked at the lyrics afterwards and thought, yeah, she's probably right. But, you know, that sort of just, it goes to show you that anyone can have their own personal interpretation of anything. And that was hers. It made sense.
I won't tend to understand what it's like to be in jail for 20 years. I won't pretend to understand what that feels like, nor will I pretend to understand what it feels like, especially if you're innocent. This is Wheat Kings for David Milgaard. Wheat Kings
Kings have all the treasures buried.
I use the, you know, the term user-friendly because it's all I can do, you know, with these lyrics after a while because, you know, I can't, it's the only way I can sort of say, well, you know, you deal with them, here they are, you deal with them, and sometimes that's not, you know, that's not good enough for certain people.
Let's go to the park. Let's go watch them flood.
Maybe if, you know, you don't understand what it's about, maybe that's okay because maybe, you know, even if you just sort of get a sense of the mood or the landscape or a character in it, or even if it just sort of takes you off somewhere else so that you're not even listening to the lyrics by the end of the song, then it's succeeded. You know, it's just functioned as a sound.
It's a sad thing, turbans all around. Stop that feeling when you're living in a small town. You're long and lean, things don't get you down. You're a top 10 kingpin in the bones of your hometown.
You say you haven't gotten too good at making videos. Why not?
We're just not good at it.
I don't know what it is.
Terrible actors.
Video's never been our forte, I don't think.
Until now.
We're getting better at it.
My word, it doesn't matter. Carry your word.
Best music video editor goes to Michelle Zukar for the Tragically Hip Courage.
Every day I'm dumping the body. Better for us if you don't understand.
Locked in the trunk of a car.
I just want to thank Pete. He's a man of vision.
Oh, all right.
When you get into videos and things like that, then when you actually have to say, here's what I look like, and this is what I'd like you to think further about the song we're about to show you, then it becomes something that I can't quite deal with. I'd rather just sort of make the record and play live, and that would be that.
That's what we're all about, is doing it live. That's what we've always sort of considered ourselves as being, you know, first and foremost, is a live act. It's actually how we write the tunes and stuff, is getting them out in front of the people.
Seems that the volume is turned up in your head when you're not doing anything, and the longer you don't do anything, the louder it gets. And then if you make, in my case, once you make a record, then that volume is turned way down for a few months, and you can relax and revel in a job well done, you know, and then you go out and play live, and then, you know, that's sort of that nightly injection of the same thing, you know, just trying to keep the volume down. But then ultimately, you know it's time to make a record because the noise starts getting extremely loud.
We came down here and we've been, you know, we went out to Rendezvous Ribs where Elvis liked to eat, and Graceland and stuff like that. We've been trying to take in the sights at the same time. And I don't think we've been really conscious of, you know, being affected by any of this stuff. But if it does happen, then I'm all for it. You know, if perhaps it seeps into the music somehow, then that's great. And then, you know, our whole reason for coming down here would be entirely justified. A, to get away from the distractions that we might run into up in Canada, and B, to, you know, perhaps allow some of this culture and tradition and history to help our music out.
The reason we chose New Orleans was the same reason we chose Memphis, which was, you know, spending 6 weeks away from home. You might as well be somewhere that you've never been, or someplace that you've read a lot about, or someplace that you're particularly interested in, you know. And Memphis and New Orleans are, you know, fabled music cities, so for musicians it would make sense to want to spend 6 weeks in any of those places.
A raven strays along the line of a road, carrying a muddy old skull. The wires whistle their approval, off down the distance.
We recorded in a fairly sterile environment in England for Fully Completely, and we're lucky enough to pull a record out of it that, you know, we liked and had some sense of atmospheric you know, some sense of atmosphere to it. And we just sort of vowed never to do that again.
Are hard to endure. Every time you work with somebody, you learn something, somebody's approach. Don Smith had a very, you know, live off the floor approach, and we dug that, and then we worked with Chris Andreidis, and then from there on, we sort of picked a little piece up from everybody.
But that's when the heart rates got missed. Then I had a serious dream.
It's been a sort of 10-year learning curve on how to make records, and you know, and after finally doing it ourselves, we feel sort of like we've come full circle, that we're back in Robbie's parents' basement and, you know, really doing things ourselves.
I think Canada's a good country for a band to get its road legs. It's a really hard country to tour in. If you can tour back and forth across Canada for a couple of years, it's a luxury to tour the States where there's a big city every hour or a couple hours, you know, instead of driving 12 hours. And here I'll use my Ronnie Hawkins quote.
We have to. Off to you.
Not again.
How does that quote go on, bro? I've forgotten that.
You have to go work. You know, you gotta work 10 times as hard. We get a 10th as far.
That's the one. Right on.
What kind of fool am I to play this game with?
Touring is where it's at, because that's, you know, every night the band's together and you're playing off each other.
It's a great cure. I mean, if you're not feeling well and you sort of walk out and hear people, you know, getting into it, it's sort of, it's great anesthetic. Yeah, definitely.
Even if you walk into a bar in Hoboken and play to 3 people, and you say something funny in between songs, and you hear one guy sort of going, that's okay too, you know, at least you're making a connection.
I want to know whose initiation rites don't require that you eat your own vomit. Come on, just let's go. She kind of bit her lip. Jeez, I don't know.
Is Gord as like nuts as he looks on stage? He's like, you know, that's what he does. You know, that's what we all do. We're really into the tunes. You know, when we're sitting in the rehearsal space playing, it's the same thing. You know, so it's kind of weird. We don't really notice it.
You ultimately achieve to have, you know, to enable the world to fall away while you're on stage, so that you're, you know, sort of free floating. That's not easy to do. That ultimately requires work and preparation.
That's what we're all about, is doing it live. That's what we've always sort of considered ourselves as being, you know, first and foremost, is a live act. It's actually how we write the tunes and stuff, is getting them out in front of the people, you know. If we had our druthers, you know, I think that's what we'd be doing all the time.
The last Roadside Attraction took on a life of its own. You know, it was sort of, there was a certain political and social element to it that sort of galvanized, you know, sort of all our friendships, the different bands, that being the Clackwood Sound protesting, it sort of became the backdrop for that entire tour. And it was sort of the meeting place for all the bands in a strange way. And, you know, credit Midnight Oil for that.
put together bands and invite them to come play with you. And it really is sort of selfish in a way. I mean, I get to watch Eric strip for 8 or 10 shows in the Inbreds and the Rheostatics. So it's fairly selfish. I could, you know, I could stand side stage and watch these bands that I love.
They're great guys. We never knew them before we went on the tour, and we didn't even really know that they liked us and stuff, or that they knew our music, but they watched every set from top to bottom.
For us, it's all about just getting a good sense of camaraderie and making it enjoyable, sort of a sense of family, I guess, between all the bands and the people we work with. And if you can achieve that, that's great. That's what it's all about for us.
I would say that this is one of the funnest tours I've ever been on. Easily the greatest thing Canada's ever seen in the entire history of concert touring.
A Roadside Attraction, we did it the first time in '93 and the second time in '95. And I mean, I've likened it to sort of arranging and planning and pulling off sort of 10 weddings in a 2-week period. And one was enough for me. One wedding almost got in the way of my marriage. So it's tough. It's hard on your head. It's kind of fun. And it would be nice to do it once a year. But, you know, and strangely enough, without doing it every year, you're sort of, so far, not been saddled with too many expectations. Certain luxuries that are afforded to us now, and most of them go unrecognized. But this is one that we really enjoy, this one perk, which is being able to play with bands you love and perchance, you know, get to know them as people, you know, for the brief moments that we have together. But that's what we started with Roadside Attraction, and we've become addicted to it.
I won't change a thing now.
They're treating us well, and we got really good monitors and sound checks, and no, they're just a great band to tour with. They're really, I don't know, they have the spirit in them, and it's a good thing.
There are dozens and dozens of bands out there that we'd love to play with, that we're fans of, you know, and at the end of all this, at the end of this huge mystery ride, we can look back, and it'll probably be those relationships that we forged with these people that will, you know, sustain us into our golden years and not make us look back in anger.
Thank you for supporting Camp Trillium. The pendulum swings for the horse like a man. Out over the red is ice cream to hell. The beautiful love.
It's camp for kids and families with cancer, some terminal, some not. It's a chance for them to go and feel kind of ordinary for 2 weeks. It's outside Picton. They do about 120 kids, anywhere from a week to 2 weeks at a time. And they have a great time. We got a great note from a kid saying hi, and crayon saying, "Hi, I am Connor, I am 5, I have cancer. I love rock and roll."
What is it about the hip that makes them so hip?
The lyrics, chord, they're great.
It's a great feeling, you know, when people are digging it, and obviously they've listened to the record before.
We do two things. We put out CDs and we play live, and I think that people appreciate that about our band. They're not hit over the head with a whole bunch of other shit, and I think that's probably why we have loyal fans.
You said you had two kinds of fans, university students and bikers.
Yeah, it's been really strange so far. We've been doing a lot of all-ages shows even down here. And we're leaving out little mailing lists and stuff at the T-shirts, and we're getting, like, Dr. Larry or whatever written, and the next guy's written in purple crayon, you know.
Mostly chiropractors.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, we had psychologists out to see us in Cleveland. It was very therapeutic backstage scene.
What is it about the hip that makes them so hip?
The lyrics, scored, they're great.
All that in a bag of donuts, man. That's all I gotta say about it.
What is it about the hip that makes them special for you?
Oh, they kick ass.
It's a great feeling, you know, when people are digging it, and obviously they've listened to the record before.
Well, I'm going down to see my highway girl.
To the hardest working dad.
Add up to a PhD.
My memory is money. What's this river that I'm in? New Orleans is sinking, man, and I don't wanna swim. Swim.
And the Juno goes to... The Tragically Hip.
The Tragically Hip.
Now, what was the Juno you won this last time in Vancouver?
Entertainer of the Year.
Entertainer of the Year, yeah. It was actually pretty cool because of all the awards on the show, I guess it's voted on by the public, so I guess it represents what the fans are into, kind of thing. So I know we were flattered to win.
As far as we're concerned, it holds more weight than like a bunch of old fogies vote on it.
The Group of the Year is deserved by Tragically Hip. I think they've done amazing sales this year. They are the super group this year.
Hoo! The Tragically Hip. When you get a swelled head and you start taking all your awards too seriously, I think that's when you get in trouble. And as I said, the five of us, know what our job is. We get up and play live, and that's how we make our living.
I want their shirts. It was worth every penny. It's the hip.
I think the kind of people that like our music, are going to come out and buy tickets and be as rabid as they can be.
What makes them so exceptional is that they're so truly Canadian, and what you've got is an eccentric genius as a lead singer.
You definitely don't feel like a celebrity when you're recording. And when you're on stage, you definitely don't feel like a celebrity. You feel like many different things, but you don't feel like at least I don't feel like a star or a celebrity. I feel like a musician.
Cheese.
Thank you. Are you guys shy?
No, just dumb.
You know, when we do interviews, we attempt to be other people besides ourselves, but it just comes through, it's pretty hard for us to be anything but boring.
They're the Canadian folk heroes. They're in a total group of their own. There's no other band like them out of Canada. They're great.
Canadian celebrity is kind of an oxymoron.
Celebrity guest at my little show.
Do you? Let's see.
Bridget Fonda.
Are you serious?
I'm not making that up.
Are you serious?
She's here?
She's in town. She wants to see the show tomorrow. Yep.
Hello.
And Eric Stoltz, co-star of Mask with Cher.
Yes?
Bridget
Fonda, eh? I think we might be able to work that out.
Jeff from Mother Love Bone wants to show up tonight with the drummer for his new band called Pearl Jam. That'd be real cool.
I'd actually like to see Tragically Hip because, they're like the Beatles here, and no one in the States has ever heard them.
And I love that for the way I'm feeling. 700 foot.
To build our careers down in the States, it just takes going back time and time again. And so sort of a word of mouth, very organic kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Kids telling kids, and away we go.
The States isn't the brass ring that it used to be, and who really cares? We're having a good time here, and what we do here allows us to go to Australia and tour Europe, and we're seeing the world and having some fun playing music.
to the park. Let's go watch them floating.
Recently, started reading a lot of rock mags. I mean, they used to be kind of depressing, you know, due to their glaring omission. But I'm okay with that now, and I enjoy it. I mean, I really feel we're kind of living in a vacuum period, and so I feel okay about it, you know.
The glaring omission because they're not saying the Tragically Hip the way that you want them to say it?
It's okay, you know. I mean, Rolling Stone is an American magazine made by Americans for Americans, and I don't really expect that to change. I don't think they would necessarily feel like helping out a Canadian band that's doing okay when they could help out a zillion million struggling American bands. The internet is just one of those things. One of, CD-ROM is another thing that where bands can sort of, pull down the veils and just say, here we are, and if you're interested, this is how you can find out about us. When you see it work and you sort of get a glimpse of the, limitlessness of it all, it's really exciting. We're basically fairly dull in the sense that, we're fairly regular and orderly about things in hopes that we may be violent and original in our work.
So you are the people's band.
Yeah. Yeah. We're a proletarian kind of thing.
Someone asked us, what we were, and I said I referred to us as an autonomous collective, operating under the guise of a major label. We're basically fairly dull in the sense that, we're fairly regular and orderly about things in hopes that we may be violent and original in our work.
What about in 20 years from now when you think people are going to look back? Do you think you'll have made some sort of contribution?
Anyone that sort of looks back and tries to, keep a running tally of lives they've changed or contributions they've made was probably doing it for the wrong reasons in the first place.
So we've never really succumbed to too much, rock and roll mythology. We've sort of just... It never quite suited us,
We've been together for 12 years. I mean, there aren't a lot of bands, put 5 journalists together. They wouldn't be together after 12 years, or working for some of the papers or whatever. And, we're great friends and we enjoy doing what we're doing. And we have a career in music.
We've skirted around and driven along, the collector lanes of all the major fads and fashions of the last 8 to 9 years. That feels good. I think that, when you're a band and you're looking for some sort of longevity, there's certain sort of basic elements that you always draw upon, and one of them is probably that you're a fan of music first and foremost, and as long as you can remain a big fan of music, then you can never be afraid of being infiltrated by contagious diseases like envy and jealousy and wishing that other musicians were paralyzed.
You guys still feel like outsiders in this business?
Not really. We're definitely a little outside of it because we don't know what's going on, and we don't know everybody, and we don't know anybody.
We're not from Toronto.
But there are a few bands that we know and like. But as far as the industry goes, we've never met them.
Sometimes I think maybe in a corporate way, in the rock stardom sort of way, we've made some mistakes, or what people that we work with on the corporate level perceive as being mistakes. But for us, you know, you can't be anything more than what we are, and that's what we're trying to be. And I think I mean, very gradually it is paying off. I mean, people appreciate, at the very least, the honesty.
Ultimately, that's sort of, you know, that's what we're about. I mean, we like to work, and that's ultimately our reward, is, you know, the feeling of accomplishment and love, you know, that we get. You know, we're playing the music we want to play, making the music we want to make. And I mean, I have to keep coming back to it, but making a career out of our imaginations, you know, Tommy Lee Jones. But it's true, you know, that's what we've been doing, and so we continue, you know, whatever. So yeah, we're doing great. We're having a great time.